And we're back and moving into our final conversation for today. For those of you who own pets, this is definitely a conversation you don't want to miss. We're joined by two veterinarians. We have Dr. Philip DeShield of the Animal Medical Center and Dr. Floyd Bennett of Lakeview Animal Clinic. And we're talking about a current outbreak of a disease that's literally killing our dogs. Good morning. That's such a cheery introduction, isn't it? Good morning.
Yeah, we'll try to bring some light on the subject because we have been seeing an increase of prevalence of this disease. We've had distemper in Belize for a long time, but we haven't seen so many cases so quickly. And we're here to kind of present the evidence and explain to people the basics of the disease, really.
So last week, the Vet Association saw this as such a critical issue that you guys decided to put out a press release reminding people or letting people know that there is an outbreak and that they have to get their dogs vaccinated. But tell me, before we move into what we can do to prevent, what is the problem, what is distemper, and how bad is it?
So distemper, it's a virus, and as we briefly talked before, it's similar to the measles virus, so it's in the same kind of family, but distemper affects mainly dogs and other wildlife, like raccoons, quash, some wild cats as well. But we primarily see it in the dog population, and it's very, very contagious, similar to measles. So it spreads very, very quickly, and it affects many different systems. So it affects the respiratory system, it affects the nervous system, it affects the digestive system. So there are many different signs that we see with this disease that it's quite fatal, actually. Yeah.
How bad is this outbreak?
So we've seen probably over 50 cases in the past month, I would say, which is record for us. I spoke with other vets in the country, and I don't know anyone who has seen such an outbreak in Belize.
When did you start to see the problem?
A couple months ago. Frankly, I've seen it for the past 2 months, but a month more or less, it's really gotten out of hand. And the turning point for me, you know, clients come in, they bring their animals in. Sometimes they come for a second opinion, and most of the time it's like when the animals are far gone, when they already reached that neurological stage. When it's at that stage, it's fatal. You can't do anything, and you would suggest euthanasia. Euthanasia, for me, it's not something you want to do. That's part of the profession. That's the hardest part.
Which is putting them down.
Exactly, putting them down. The contagious normally would opt for euthanasia. The disease is incurable. We would opt for euthanasia because there's a cost implication to it. It can be you would detect it at an early stage, and you would sometimes want to, and you would make it an option for the clients.
The dog looks healthy, so you want to keep it alive longer.
So you will try. You will try. There are cases where you've had some successes, but you know the chances of it happening once it reaches that neurological stage, it's next to impossible. The prognosis is slim.
What are we talking about here, though? Is it stray dogs, or are we talking about dogs that are in protected areas?
The domestic ones are the ones that are more prone. Any dogs can catch it. Any dogs can catch it. But I mean, we domesticate our animals. Their immune system sometimes is weaker. The stray dogs, a lot of times you would say they are a focus of infections. They would sometimes come down with a mild form of the disease, or even a more aggressive form of the disease, but they are hardier, so they don't manifest the disease. But yours that you would have in your yard, you know, more domesticated, they would readily catch it as long as they're unvaccinated.
How does it spread?
So there are many different ways of transmission, so it's very infectious. The biggest concern is that there's a lot of coughing and sneezing, and so it is spread respiratory, so it's airborne in a way. And that becomes an issue for a lot of pet owners. They say, oh, my dog's in the yard, I don't take him out, you know. The disease can jump fences. So if there's stray dogs that are shedding the disease on the street or whatnot, but they're not as sick, it can infect your dog that's inside the fence yard, and they start showing the signs, and they spread it, and it can shed for about 3 months, really. So even if the dog looks clinically healthy, they can still be shedding this virus, and that makes it very difficult, you know, to control such a disease, you know, when they shed healthy animals are shedding the virus.
What, 3 months they may be
Yes.
capable of spreading this disease to other animals.
Yes,
Exactly.
if they've been infected. So the body can respond in different ways. So it can cut off. If you have a really good immune system, you can fight off the virus. Sometimes you can get a milder infection. So you might see a little bit of signs, maybe a little twitch or a little bit of nasal discharge. But most of the cases become full blown, and that's when it becomes fatal with unable to walk, respiratory issues. So there's different stages, but all through those 3 stages, you can still be shedding.
Is this a threat to humans? Can humans be affected by
No,
distemper?
it's not a zoonotic disease.
Okay, it means it
it's
can be
specific to
transferred
dogs.
to a human in any way at all?
No, so
You
far,
just-
no.
Okay.
So I said it's similar to measles as far as, when you're studying virus structure and whatnot, same family. But there's been no cases of it jumping to humans. It does switch quite a bit, and that's something that we always have to be updating our vaccines and being current on our vaccinations, because the virus can shift a little bit, just like a lot of
Like the
viruses.
flu.
Like the flu, exactly.
Yeah.
So you need to get updated vaccines. So you can't use old vaccines or old types. And so there is a bit of shifting. So we always have to be on the front. The disease has been around since the 16th century. They've documented in Europe. So,
Yeah.
but it's slowly changing as time progresses. So we can't sit back.
I know we have some terrible videos, but you kind of wanted people to know what signs to look for. So if we can get those up in just a few, talk me through what people may see in their pet or in their dog that they should definitely get to the clinic.
Well, most of it would normally initiate with a respiratory type.
So sneeze and
infection.
cough.
Sneezing, coughing, mucosa from the nose, the eyes. You would get like mucus buildup around the eyes, and all of those secretions, bodily secretions, are how you would transmit the disease. All the bodily secretions. Then at times you would get gastrointestinal or digestive problems, vomiting, inappetence. The dogs wouldn't want to be eating, vomiting, diarrhea, and then you would get the neurological stage where you would get muscle twitching, like if you'd have like someone having Parkinson's disease. But dogs that or animals, the younger dogs, the older dogs that are their immune system is not developed enough or it's immunocompromised, they would be more likely to contract the disease. And for instance, a puppy or a dog that is not well fed, any nutritional deficiencies, and the immune system is not on par, they would be likely to skip the respiratory and the digestive stage and just go to the neurological stage. Then you won't be able to do anything. An issue here, a lot of people, they go and they purchase their vaccination. Some of the clients would come in and they say, you know what, my dog is already vaccinated. And who vaccinated the dog? No, I did it. They go, they purchase the vaccine. A lot of factors come into play. The
And
cold chain. They might not even know the protocols. So they would give one vaccine. The dog is fully vaccinated, but they gave one. I see sometimes on Facebook people selling puppies. The age of the puppy, 6 weeks old, 9 weeks old, and they would have like a clause there, the puppy is fully vaccinated. That's impossible. The vaccination protocol is 6 weeks, 9 weeks, 12 weeks, and now we're even opting for a 4th vaccine at week 16. There are certain predisposed breeds as well, in particular for parvovirus. And the 5-in-1 vaccine we use here in Belize to combat this disease, we are vaccinating not only for distemper. We have this
That's
at
rabies
hand.
and...
No, rabies is separate.
Okay.
So we are vaccinating for leptospirosis, distemper, parvovirus, adenovirus, parainfluenza, and then the rabies vaccine, that's separate. So those two annually, in adult dogs, we need to vaccinate against these two diseases, the 5-in-1 and the rabies.
From your experience, why do you think we're seeing this? You think people are just not going in for the vaccination each year, or it's a specifically aggressive strain?
So I think we're still trying to figure it out. We're in the middle of the outbreak, trying to get a bit more information. So we've been collecting some samples, and hopefully we'll send it off to see if there's a different strain that we're dealing with. But I think it's a combination of several things. One of which it could be weather related, could even be climate change related, to tell you the truth. Because distemper survives when it's not too hot and it's not too dry as well. So we've had a kind of strange wet season this year. We had like a lot of rain, and it wasn't so wet for a while, and it wasn't very, very hot. So I think it just kind of exacerbated or caused a favorable environment for the virus. There also could be another switch, because there have been some strains they've noticed in wildlife populations up north a bit, in the US even, that they've seen outbreaks. And I think people have been quite lax with vaccinations. You get comfortable, you haven't been seeing the diseases, why do I need to vaccinate?
Correct.
Just like with people. And we don't have that herd health that we need with vaccination. So vaccines are most effective if majority of the people are vaccinated. If you have small pockets of vaccinated animals, you don't really protect the way the vaccine is designed to protect. It's not a one shot and your dog is.
So you should be going in every year for a vaccine for your dog.
Yes.
You get this series of vaccinations as puppies, as I had mentioned before, 6 weeks, 9 weeks, 12 weeks, and then annually you go in just to do the 5-in-1 and rabies.
So for any dog owner right now, if they can't remember the dog getting a vaccine last year, they definitely perhaps need to go for one now.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, how do you manage this? Let me go back. As a dog owner, I think what is perhaps the hardest part of this is hearing what you said, that it is completely incurable.
Yes. So
At no stage, even if you catch them early with the respiratory, is there no chance of saving this animal?
Okay. So it's incurable in the sense that there's no antiviral that will destroy the virus.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's very similar to the flu in that sense, or the common cold. You know, there's no cure for the common cold, people will say, because of the viral component. If you catch it early and the body mounts an immune response, there is a chance that the dog may survive the distemper course, but they can have permanent issues. So they can have a permanent nerve issue. They might have like a twitch like the Parkinson's, and that can be for life. So there's different stages. What we do is, you know, we assess how far the animal is based on the risk of the animal spreading it to other animals to kind of determine what's the best plan of action. But some animals can make it, but it needs a lot of supportive care, a lot of dedication, a lot of financial input as well.
Yeah.
And the incurability part to it, you know, there might be sequels. So as long as you catch it initially, and it can be expensive because you have to deal with the respiratory symptoms, whatever symptoms. And the thing is, the virus is astute. I mean, you would be dealing with respiratory issues if that presents itself, and then it would switch to neurology, and then you would have to be dealing with, you know, trying to get the neurons back to order and all of that. And the incurability part to it is that you might have sequels. You have treatment, you have a treatment, but it's not curable because you might have sequels. They might have their twitching permanently, they might have seizures in the future, they might have blindness. So you'd have permanent neurological damage depending on the extent of the disease.
And the majority of cases you're seeing are too far gone?
They're mixed, but there are many cases, and the reason many cases incurable in the sense that they're far gone, they have reached the neurological stage, and then you can't do anything for them. But why? People are doing their own thing. I had a client come in yesterday, and my dog, it's been a week now, my dog has had all the symptomologies of distemper. And he was like, can you come and see my dog today? And it's like, when did you vaccinate? Is the dog vaccinated? No, it's not vaccinated, but I just vaccinated it yesterday. Vaccinations are not to cure any particular disease, it's to prevent. And people need to understand that. You know, they would just, and this is my point, they would go to these veterinary establishments and they would purchase the vaccine, and no, my dog is showing these signs, they are just out to sell a product. But they don't understand. I mean, I cannot re-emphasize you need to bring your dog in or get the necessary advice as it relates to the well-being.
And assess them properly before you vaccinate.
Exactly. Said, no, but I understand, you know, there are cost constraints to it. You know, I prefer to go and buy the vaccine than go to the veterinarian. But I always tell my clients, you come in to the clinic, sorry, and we assess. We weigh the animals, sometimes you come in just to vaccinate, and then we pick up on other things, external parasites infestation. You might have fleas, mange, or you pick up on other things. So, you know, that's the importance of coming to the veterinarian.
What's the cost implication here? So if I never vaccinated my dog, or if I didn't vaccinate them in the past 3-4 years since they were a puppy, how much does it cost? What's the average? Because people love their dogs, but I find that sometimes they don't want to spend the extra because the dog food enough is expensive, no? But if somebody wants to keep their household pet or their yard dog, what does it cost? Average.
Yeah, so there's no real, I mean, every hospital is different,
Yeah.
and we can't price fix or have a set
Yeah.
price legally. But I'd probably say about $50 would be a rough estimate for the vaccine, and it depends if they need another vaccine.
Yeah.
I think that would be safe, but it's still a fraction. If you want your animal to survive or you want to do supportive care, it's just a fraction of what it would cost to do care for any of the viruses that are diseases that the vaccine covers. So you're covering, as he mentioned, lepto, distemper, parvo. All those diseases are very expensive if we had to try to treat or manage it.
Yeah.
And the vaccine is a fraction, and it's just once a year, really. And I think if you have an animal, you should kind of budget that the animal is going to need some kind of care.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to bring it in a critical state and then you're cornered because you can't financially afford the treatment.
Yeah.
And I think it's like an insurance policy in a sense.
Yeah. Now, if somebody is watching and they're saying, okay, if there's so many cases of distemper and they're coming into your clinics, I'm scared to take my dog to the clinic because maybe my dog will get it there. What are you doing to mitigate the risks there?
Exactly. That's important, and that's a good point. For instance, in my case, even if the animal comes in perfectly healthy, every patient that comes in and leaves the clinic, after every patient leaves the clinic, I sanitize the area.
Yeah.
Even as I mentioned, if the animals are perfectly fine, because you don't want any cross-contamination.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, even a scale, as simple as it seems, you wash down the scale, you would use bleach. That's another point. We need to know how to sanitize the area. We would have people with several dogs, for instance. One would come down with the disease, tested positive, and then, okay, what do we do? So part of what we need to put in place to mitigate this is simply sanitizing the area. And Clorox, you could use, the proportion is 1 to 30, bleach, water combination. Yeah. I just do it straight. So you can't go wrong, that's sanitation is important. Yeah. So for me, and I'm sure for animal medical, it's guaranteed we are taking certain steps. For instance, now they had mentioned people come in, any symptomology, you know what, you would wait. If I have another animal, I'll deal with this other animal, but we have to triage and you figure it out. Exactly. System.
Yeah. I want to put people's minds at ease because I'm sure that's what they think of. From your professional experience, since you've put out the release, are you seeing a reduction in cases? Are you seeing more? Have we reached the peak of this outbreak from your own estimation?
It's pretty much being steady. I would say it's increasing. I don't think it has reached its peak. I mean, yesterday, every single day we get cases. I've gotten cases. Yesterday I had 3 cases. And
all of them had to be put down?
No. Some of them, it's just the initial stage, but that's my point. The ones that you would get at that stage, it's like people who are certain individuals, I see my dog was running around and all of a sudden he stopped eating and they would bring the dog in. Then you jump on it, you know what? Probably we could treat and we could see if we could save. Yeah. But I would be upfront, there's this possibility, this likelihood,
there's going to be some residual problems. Yeah. So. And from your end?
Yeah, I would say the same. I don't think we're seeing the downward yet or anything of that sort. We're still seeing an increase in the cases, and I'm not sure if people, since the press release, people have kind of noticed a bit more and it has gotten out, and so we're seeing more people calling in about their dog actually. Because a lot of people initially said, oh, I thought it was just a cold because of the change of weather or something like that, and now they're, instead of usually they would just wait. Most people would just wait and see if it would pass, but now I think a lot of people are being on top of it, which is good. So I'm not sure if the increase is from more distemper or more people are coming
aware. Yeah. And you see more people coming in for vaccines?
I've seen a slight uptick since last week for vaccinations, which is good, and a lot of people request home visits to do vaccination. So we're trying to accommodate everybody, but it
So if I have a dog at home and I say, my dog has no interaction with any other dog, it's in my house, maybe it goes downstairs a little while, is my dog safe?
No, it's not safe.
No.
Vaccinate.
Vaccinate, yes.
A lot of people, and I always tell my clients, one of the biggest form of transmission, we transmit the disease. It's dry at this time, you have dust, as I mentioned, you have a lot of stray dogs, they are emitting the diseases, their bodily secretions, it becomes mixed in the soil, we walk in that, our vehicles, what's the first thing? When a dog would go and mark their spot, they would go and smell your tires and then mark. You know, so your animal is unvaccinated. I mean, so we take the disease in. So contention plan, you need to vaccinate. That's the first thing.
Who's monitoring the data for the Vet Association? I mean, I know that this is I haven't heard of a Outbreak release coming up from the vet before, the Vet Association.
Yeah, so this is a bit preemptive in the sense that we've, you know, the vets in Belize City have seen an uptick in the cases, and it's a concern, so we contacted the Vet Association and trying to pool information from other districts, because I know they've seen it in Corozal, Orange Walk, Toledo even.
So across the country, this isn't a Belize City issue?
It's across the country, and that's the reason, you know, we need to alert people.
So, so we're still, I mean, we're tabulating data from each clinic, but there's nothing has been compiled as yet or anything of that sort, because we really want to stop it before it gets out of hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once again, what's your advice to people at home if their dog has early symptoms, maybe they're sneezing, or if they're not sure if their dog has been vaccinated? What's your advice?
You need to vaccinate. First of all, you need to take your dogs in to see the veterinarian. That's we cannot re-emphasize that enough. You know, the veterinarian is the person qualified, the person apt to give you the necessary information needed, you know, for you to for a plan of action, just to see what's going on with your animal before you do anything.
So don't wait for signs of twitching.
Don't wait.
No. Look for change in appetite.
Change in behavior, change in appetite, any discharge. If your animal looks ill, it should be seen by a veterinarian. Okay.
And not wait and do your antibiotics. People do their home remedies and what have you. Then they come when their backs are against the wall and they don't see any improvement. Then they would. And most of the time, you know, the animals are far gone. They're suffering. So, you know, from the initial stage, you bring them in, and the prognosis would be better. The chances of them surviving with a treatment, adequate treatment, would be better.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in, for really helping us understand the seriousness of the situation, and hopefully people will listen to all that you've said and take the necessary steps to protect their pets. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and take our final break now, and when we come back, we'll have our wrap-up, so stay tuned.